Alright, thank you so much everyone for being here, for taking a moment to mingle together. We're going to be turning the music down a little bit and we'll get started to formally open this meeting. But before we do, I just want to say thank you all so much for being here on behalf of all the members of our city council. We are really grateful for you to take the time to be here tonight. I also want to frame tonight's meeting. Tonight's meeting is an annual event that we do. It's informal meeting to update the community at large, to provide a temperature check of what we've accomplished and what challenges we still have in some of our action plans moving forward. The structure of tonight's meeting is at the top, it is structured, it's a formal meeting, so it opens up formally. But then we'll switch over to the state of the city. The state of the city portion is much more presentational. And what we'll do is we'll go through it quickly because what we really want to do is create as much time as possible to have a conversation with our community. So to provide more time for questions and more time for members who want to contribute to some of the ideas on the boards that are back in the back of this the community center here. So before I begin, I'm going to just check in with the team to see if we're good to go technically. Yes, we are. All right. So with that, calling the special meeting of the Suisun City Council to order. Today is Wednesday, May 28th, and the time is 6:07 p.m. With that, what's on the agenda, it is customary for us to open with the Pledge of Allegiance, so I'll ask Vice Mayor Dawson to lead us in the pledge.
Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Now, I will look over to our team if we would like to do a formal roll call for the council's record, or do you just checking in with all of you?
We can just say you're all present, excluding Councilor Powell, who we know is absent.
Okay, perfect. Also, with that, we're just going to go ahead and dive in. So the first thing that we have on the agenda is general public comments. So these are public comments that are not anything to do with the state of the city. These are just broad general public comments, and I believe we already received some public speaker cards. So we'll receive public comments first, and then we'll move into opening the speakers.
Thank you, Mayor. If anybody wants to do public comment tonight, I have one speaker card. If you would like to give general public comment, feel free to bring it up to me and we'll get you the line up, Mr. Russo. I got you right there. First public comment, you can step up to this mic and I'll make sure it's on. It's Rick Wright.
What I'm talking about is my personal belief about California forever.
Can you get closer to the mic a little bit?
How's this? There you go. Better? Okay. My personal belief that California forever is not just a local developer, typical developer. It is a direct attack on our democracy. And it is, as we know, the truth is out there. Network state, exit comment, number of other sites that California forever is in lockstep with it. And we'll become subject to billionaires if we let our democracy go. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other general public comments at this time?
Andrew Russo is our last public comment.
Yeah, I'd like to speak on the state of the city. I think we know what the state of the city is. It's in totally disarray, it's deteriorating, and selling it to billionaires is not the solution. Because you've mismanaged the revenues of this city, because you've mismanaged the budget of the city, you're looking to billionaires to bail you out. That's not the solution. You know, the billionaires bailing you out does not compensate for your incompetence in the way you ran this city. And this is happening all over the country, where billionaires are buying out rural communities and small towns. And you're allowing this to happen. Other communities have fought this. And instead of fighting this, you've given it up. And you've given up on Main Street and important properties on Main Street in a goddamn fire sale to billionaires who incorporate Nevada and Delaware, which have the strictest privacy laws in the country. This is your solution? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Russo. All right, so with that, we're going to go ahead and open up our State of the City formally. So with this portion, we have a presentation. You all should have a copy of that presentation here in front of you. On your, you all have one? Yes? Okay, I see. All right, so what we'll do is, we'll go through the slide deck and we'll make sure to make copies available on line, post the meeting to make sure everybody has a copy of it as well. All right, so with that, we're going to go ahead and dive into State of the City, but first we do have a message for our Councilmember Powell, who announced that he would not be able to be here and he wanted to provide a message to the community.
Good evening. My name is Amit Powell, Suisun City Council member. I'm sorry I can't be there tonight due to a prior family engagement. My son is debuting his first theatrical show at the local elementary school, and I need to be there as well. I want to take this time to thank the city for moving forward. I want to thank some of the projects that we're working on. I want to thank Michael Allen, the city manager's office, for really bringing the entertainment zone policy to help our local downtown restaurants to help expedite our economic vitality. I want to thank the city manager for working with us to see how we can get the vacant buildings back into vacancy with some incentives. I'm hoping there's a lot more coming from this presentation. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me, apal@suit.com, or myself, 707-810-0298. Thank you.
All right, and all of our contact information for each one of the members of this council is on our Suisun City website, so you have access to all of our information in our direct lines there as well. So then we're going to go ahead and move on to the next slide. As Councilmember Powell noted, one of his initiatives was our downtown entertainment zone. I did want to quickly reference some of the other initiatives of other members of our council that I thought were worthy of note. And so I'll just kind of quickly go through this. I just want to give a quick shout out to Vice Mayor Dodson, who was able to bring us an additional $40,000 to the Life Skills program with the homelessness outreach programs that we're doing. So we were able to attain some of that funding thanks to some of her work and her leadership on the point-in-time count that happened for this January. In regards to counting on the homeless individuals in Suisun City, being able to connect a lot of those resources and being able to lead that initiative citywide. I also want to thank, in addition to the entertainment zone that Councilmember Powell was able to bring to the city, he also was able to help facilitate the first Diwali proclamation in Solano County that happened right here in Suisun City. So we're really grateful for that work as well. I also want to thank Councilmember Shepherd for bringing forward the e-bike policy. We're hearing a lot about e-bikes out in the community and teenagers, and that's a policy that is being, we just received consensus from the rest of the council and moving into that forward. Early this year, we had our first state of business, and she was also a panelist to that presentation. I want to thank Councilmember Washington. She's championed some of the transparency policies that we have in Suisun City, including the NDA policy, and also championing some agreement timelines for development agreements that I thought was really, really well done. My work is much more high-level strategy, so I've led a lot of the work around the Master Economic Development Plan, Strategic Plan, and norms and procedures. So just wanted to we are really involved in, of course, all the policies in Suisun City, but we all have the opportunity to bring in some initiatives that we're passionate about, and I just wanted to make sure that you all knew some of the work the individual members of the council have brought forward. So with that, let's go ahead and look at some of the department updates from the city, and I think we have a video for that.
Hi everybody, I'm your city manager, Brett Robola. I want to talk to you today about the past year here in Suisun City. Over the past year, the city, through the city council and with our staff, has really worked on both financial stability and planning for the future. It's important that we take both into account as we move forward together. all of our departments from Parks and Rec, Housing, Police and Fire, and even those departments you don't get to see behind the scenes like Finance, HR, and IT, have all played vital roles in the successes we have had this year. I'm excited that you all will be able to see and we can showcase some of those successes this evening and through our video, and look forward to having another great year ahead.
Hi, I'm Janet Hull, Recreation Parks and Marina Director. The Recreation Parks and Marina Department was honored with the California Park and Recreation Society's Award of Excellence for our adaptive programming this year, expanding opportunities for individuals with developmental disabilities. We also saw record participation in our Infinity Run, now our largest athletic event, with over 500 participants and continued strengthening community partnerships. Major projects came to life, including the opening of Prosperity Garden Park with new play spaces and the unveiling of the new community garden, as well as the revitalization of Get Park's playground. These investments in Suisun City continue to form more vibrant spaces for all residents.
Hi, I'm Christina Finley, the Human Resources Director. Our Human Resources team focuses on supporting employees and ensuring the city is well protected. We work with our Joint Powers Authority to bring a new outside administrator in to improve how liability and property damage claims are managed. We also streamline hiring and onboarding with new online tools, making it easier to recruit and integrate new employees. We successfully completed labor negotiations with all employee groups, completed a compensation study, and implemented updates to pay and benefits. Recently, we engaged with new providers to expand employee support by offering additional benefits like pet insurance, legal services, and urgent care, and continue to support employees by developing a citywide safety program to meet workplace standards. Finally, we brought payroll services into Human Resources, creating a one-stop shop for our city employees.
Good afternoon. I'm Roland Roberts, IT Director for the City of Suisun. Many of the accomplishments you will hear from other departments would not be possible without IT support. Over the past year, we've been working behind the scenes to make the city's technology more secure, reliable, and responsive. That included major upgrades to better protect our systems and data. We've also supported new public safety tools like camera systems and drone technology. These tools are helping first responders do their jobs more safely and effectively. In addition, we've made sure the city staff have the resources they need to serve the community while also improving how we handle public records requests so residents can get information quickly and securely.
Hi, my name is Niwei Pu. I'm the Public Works Director. Public Works has made significant progress improving our city's infrastructure over the past 2 years. We've completed 13 capital projects totaling over $13 million. Our new vacuum truck is enhanced storm drain and sewer maintenance, helping reduce flooding and keep systems running reliably. We're also in the process of bidding the city's solid waste contract to strengthen long-term service and financial sustainability.
Hello everyone, I'm Aaron Roth, the Police Chief here in Suisun City. Wanted to take a moment to go over some of our accomplishments from the past year. Over the year, the Suisun City Police Department made meaningful progress in how we serve our community. We introduced a new drone program, training 18 FAA certified staff, helping us respond more quickly and more efficiently in the field. We also brought training in-house by developing state-approved courses, which has improved flexibility while reducing costs. We welcomed 9 new recruits and successfully trained and deployed 2 officers and 2 dispatchers, bringing us closer to full staff. The regional partnerships, we strengthened our response to serious collisions, and internally, we enhanced transparency using independent personnel investigators, and we streamlined our reporting using new technology. Our adding a dispatch record supervisor has also improved our day-to-day operations. We remain committed to providing professional, efficient service to our community. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Brad Lopez, Fire Chief for Suisun City Fire Department. Over the past year, Suisun City Fire Department improved service, safety, and protection of the community. We added 3 firefighter paramedic positions to better handle medical emergencies. We also received approval for a new Type 1 fire engine and aerial ladder truck, so crews can respond faster and more effectively. We completed the 2025-2030 strategic plan to guide our future and improvements. Our ISO rating, a national score is used by insurance companies to measure fire protection, also improved from a Class 4 to a Class 3. This significant achievement can positively impact insurance costs for residents and businesses. These results reflect our team's hard work and strong community support.
Hi, my name is Rick Caperton, Development Services Director. Development activity remains central to shaping Suisun City's future. Over the past year, the the city advanced a mix of residential, non-residential, and mixed-use projects, many expected to begin construction this year. The Development Services Department also processed more than 20 government-owned properties under the Surplus Land Act, supporting strategic disposition and downtown infill opportunities. Additional efforts to boost economic activity include establishing a downtown entertainment zone and adopting a mobile vendor ordinance. Together, these initiatives balance immediate priorities with long-term sustainable growth.
Over the past year, your department heads have made significant progress in improving the community service to everyone throughout Suisun City. We know we still have a little bit of ways to go, and we're excited about that challenge and opportunity over the next year and even beyond. We look forward to working together with our city council and the community to continue the great enhanced public service that you all are becoming accustomed to. We know that doing this together is how we achieve the best results, and we're excited to work together as a team to make the next year even better than the year we just had.
So these are the department updates. I mean, could I just have all our department heads raise your hand here? You are one of our department heads. Can we give a round of applause? We have a lot of challenges and a lot of limitations, yet what we just saw are within those constraints. We have a mighty team that works through all of them to figure out ways that they can continue to bring solutions that support the quality of life of our residents. And so thank you so much for all of your work. The next piece here we're going to go through. What I wanted to really get to is being able to create more space for questions, because we have our department heads here. So there might be questions where we're the appropriate members as members of council, and some of them are the actual members who represent those departments. We want to make sure we provide some time to give them the opportunity to speak. So we're going to go ahead and jump in. I believe I'm going to kick this off to you regarding the finances for our city.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm just going to stand up because it's just easier to maneuver and chat at the same time. So I think just getting everyone who may not be as familiar with how kind of government finance goes, just the process itself. So typically, you start planning your next year's budget at the same time you're doing what is referred to as a mid-year review. So, for example, January, February of this calendar year, we would have brought, which we did, the fiscal year 25-26 mid-year review to council, and that's really a time when we analyze, with 6 months of data, how we think the full year is going to end. Are revenues on target? Are they short of target? Are they above target? Same with the expense side, because a budget is an extremely fluid document. It is in any organization. The minute you adopt it, things start changing, right? Timelines of hiring change, everything changes along the way. And so we did that in that mid-year analysis. Next slide you can go to. The one thing that's important to know is that as you kind of analyze that mid-year budget, it helps tell you if you have any leeway to help support the budget that you're about to create. And that budget process starts around February and then goes all the way through the June adoption typically. And so it's a very laborious process, especially in small and mid-sized organizations where you're trying to do day-to-day operations. You may not have as much dedicated budget staff that you see in large organizations. And our team comes together really well. We do it as a collective. The department heads work together in doing it. It's not done in a vacuum. Just to give you a little bit of behind-the-scenes approach of how we take this. You can go to the next slide, please. The one thing that's important, and the reason why I want to go to this slide is Measure S. And so we hear a lot of conversations about the passing of Measure S, and I'll get to a little bit of where that's at in our resiliency plan and future slides. The one thing that's important to know is Measure S is, in its nature, a bridging measure. And what does that mean? That means the council very intentionally said, hey, we know we need to have time to be able to do other things, to be able to have long-term stability in our community. And to do that, we have to essentially pass a tax measure, because the original one was expiring at that time a year later if it didn't pass. And we knew we had to get ahead of it to be able to give ourselves time to strategically look at how we can move the city to be more resilient in the future. And so, thanks to all of you in the community and the council, that tax measure passed November of 24. It's 672%, which is unheard of, I'll tell you, in tax measures. That is just a very good vote of confidence from the public at the work the council and staff are doing and the plan ahead of what we are trying to do with that bridging measure. What that measure has done is really for us right now, let us maintain and slightly enhance some areas of public safety, both in police and fire. 95% of that money goes directly right now to police and fire. The other 5% essentially goes into IT and some back of the house staff and services that we need to support those initiatives in the public safety arena. That said, it has been through directive to council, and we are continuing to work through how do we slowly and strategically come off the use of all of Measure S for operations over time and pivot it to help support some of the other initiatives we have in the city. Mostly you hear about roads, but it could be other things to even enhance some of the in-house programs and things in the future. And so it's important to know as the community that we are working on that strategy. That is a strategy that's going to have to take place over time. I will tell you the 26-27 budget that's coming up, we won't be able to pivot much away from that there. And the 27-28 budget, I don't see any way we can pivot from using it for public safety in that budget. Now that said, the goal, and you'll see some strategies that we're going to put forward just as long-term pillars to the council during the June budget discussions, is essentially that we're going to reach a point where we think post 27-28, depending on what happens in development and other things in that kind of 1.5-year window, we'll be able to start to kind of hold the operations and move some of that money slowly to other initiatives in the city, with the goal that over time it really starts to peel back and to go to other areas besides just operational staff. It's not a bad use of it by any means. It's a general tax, so it can be used for anything the council has the discretion to authorize, and public safety is a high priority area for everybody in the community. So good use of it now, but no, we are trying to get off of it and trying to build a staffing and service model that can be absorbed with less of it in the future. And so looking forward to bringing those strategies to start that conversation in the coming weeks ahead. Next slide, please. One thing we did recently is we did an organizational realignment. So part of what that responsibility is in my office is figuring out, okay, adding is important, and we know we're still about 80 to 85% most staffing levels in most departments relative to our peers of similar sized cities. But there are ways to use efficiency, and you're going to hear that kind of throughout this evening, to work and create more capacity with the staff you already have. And it's also about what positions those staff hold to help us more. And so this realignment was important. It now has touched every department in a real way, and we are effectively already more efficient. I'll give you an example, and you heard it in the connection with Council Vice Mayor Dawson. Actually, my office was one of those staff members that got realigned. Specifically, one of the many duties that she holds now is managing our unhoused program broadly in how we look at advocacy to get them out and into services and shelters. But also the programmatic side of it, which is our life skills program that we just started. Ashley, just within the first month, was able to get $40,000 of funding that takes that off the general fund and then now allows that to be funded by another source. So that in and of alone is much more than the cost of realigning her and her colleague in my office to do it. And that's just one example of what happens when you have the right people in the right roles throughout the city. And so kudos and applaud the council for supporting that. These changes are never easy, but this is already showing some real benefit. Along the same lines as we look at budget, and you go ahead, there you go, the next slide. Before I talk about our kind of three-pronged resiliency approach that you've heard from me before, I want to talk about having some relative understanding of our budget compared to others. And you may have heard me do this before. It's important to understand what problems Suisun is trying to solve as a city. Many times when you come into cities, it can be an expense problem, it can be a revenue problem, it can be a combination of both. With Suisun, it really is a revenue problem. Suisun's revenue, our revenue here in the general fund, is roughly $32 million, 33 million, depending on the year right now. A city of similar size in Benicia, same population, same marina, right? Different structure and development. They're years ahead of us, I think, in that development framework. But to give you a sense, their general fund budget is $60 million. You're like, well, Valero's going away. Valero's about a $10 million clip, so it's $50 million. So when you do that over the same populations, Benicia has about $1,800 to $2,000 per resident in revenue, that's sales tax, DOT, property tax, all the above. We have roughly $1,000. That is a massive delta to run the same size city. And so I bring that up because as I look at the problems that we're trying to solve here in Suisun with the council and staff, this is really about how we bring in revenue to deal with it. When we look at cutting and doing different things, there's no way for us to cut ourselves to prosperity, and I have said that for the last 2 years. We can cut ourselves to reduce service delivery, which impacts how everything happens in the community, unfortunately in a negative way. Or we can try to grow ourselves into, in a variety of ways, the revenue that we should have to provide the service delivery that you all should expect as a 30,000 plus community and growth. And so, if you remember 2 years ago, if you were here, we were sitting in this exact room, we talked about our resiliency plan. We talked about it in a three-pronged approach. And the first prong was that Measure S, and that we need to give ourselves time. And again, congratulations to everyone in the community that we've checked that pillar off. The second was we knew we needed to do infill. And what that means is we needed to aggressively approach every private and publicly owned area that we could develop or redevelop in this community. That was very, very important and a clear directive from this council to me. And I will say we have 14 projects in various stages. As you heard from the video through Director Camperton, we have 20 properties throughout the city that have been gone through or almost through the Surplus Land Act process, which is a very laborious state process that you have to go through before you can sell off public assets. And the reason that is because cities are not developers. The private sector develops. It is our job to enhance and facilitate that development to the best of our ability to maximize the value to our community. And that maximization is not always revenue. I want you all to know that. That is what we need in Suisun. But to give you an example, the 34-acre site, which is the big water tower site that you see out there that you're probably like, when is that thing going to get developed? Because I've been looking at it for 20 years. We are through the state process with that. In the summer, we are doing an RFP to go out to some of the biggest developers for a master planned area like that, which would be like, think of big developers like KB Homes, Lennar, Lewis Homes. You've seen them around Solano County, probably in a variety of different developers. That and others is who we're looking for to develop that large of a site. But on that site, it's not all just going to be focused on revenue and property tax and sales tax and TOT. There are other areas, healthcare is one of them, where this community is lacking. So providing service also means how do we develop to enhance the service delivery to all of you? And so we're working with our partners at North Bay to see if we can get an urgent care, imaging, and clinic with workforce housing on that same site with whatever developer we choose, because we know we need to have a healthcare facility in Suisun City. And you don't have that right now, and we need to provide that for you. So when we talk about development and maximizing ROI, it is not always going to be, it will in many cases, but not always revenue. It also might be quality of life development that we do to enhance everyone that lives and works here. The third leg, if you remember, currently now is exploring expansion. 2 years ago, it was a TBD. We knew that infill wasn't enough. I think that's an important element to understand. If every one of the infill projects, the 34-acre site, which could be 200 homes and 50,000 square feet of entertainment commercial, and the clinic I mentioned, and the downtown with Cameron by Mike Day Park could be beautiful 3-story condos for sale, and the Line X properties could be restaurants and 40 units, and the California Forever project could be mixed use and 100 units and great retail and everything in between that. If you add all that up, and it only gets us about another $4 to $6 million fully built out in revenue between sales tax, property tax, and DOT. That gets us closer to the $40 million mark of built out over time, which again is still well below the number that you heard me talk about before in comparable cities in today's dollars, not 4 or 5 years later, when that number will even need to be a little higher. And so knowing that, it means we go full steam ahead on infill, but there has to be something else. And part of exploration that's important to know is it's not just looking at the project with California Forever. I know everyone points to that, and it should. It's a big thing. It should take up a lot of energy. But there are 2 other areas of the city that we're expanding and annexing in as well that get a little less headlines, but are still vitally important to what we're doing here in Suisun. The first is what we refer to the Highway 12 project which is kind of off downtown on the railroad. You've probably seen it. It's about 400 acres of it, only about 60 are developable. Buzz Oates is the owner. That project, you may have heard me say, died, and it did towards the a few months ago because of some unfortunate issues with the revenue sharing agreement with the county. Because the developers committed and we had some really good conversations, they have decided and have just bought the property and taken off the option to play with it. Why is that good for us? It means they're going to move forward with the project now. And we have finalized, at least at the CAO and city manager level, the term sheet on a revenue sharing agreement there, and that will come to the council sometime in the next 90 days.
Can you explain what CAO is?
Yeah, sorry. County administrative officer is the city manager equivalent in the county structure. So my peer essentially on the county structure, executive to executive, negotiated the terms that will eventually go to the governing boards, both the city council and the board, to approve those revenue sharing agreements. And that's a huge element when you annex. That's one of the biggest hangups in timing is getting that done. I think we've got a good framework that makes it a win-win for both county and city in this. But that project at full build out will generate about $1.2 million a year in additional revenue to the city system. On the east side, towards Travis Air Force Base and the South Gate, the same developer owns another couple of hundred acres there. That has been a project that predates every council member and myself as city manager here. It's kind of gone up and down with what it could be, should be, would be, related to its proximity to the base and everything else. But we have had very recently very good conversations with key members of the TCC, key members of the base, and the developer themselves. And we are now seeing progress and some shifting in what they want to do there that might make it much more supportive of being base adjacent and the larger regional need of both power and defense and industrial. And that pivot is a good thing. We don't have all the details and we're not fully there yet, but the pivot by the developer is a sign they're listening, which is what we want. And that at full build out will be anywhere between 1.5 to 2 million a year in additional revenue to the city. And so both of those are very important projects as we move forward, separate and distinct from the expansion. And we don't talk about them as much because you get overshadowed by the larger one. But you know, expansion is not just the larger annexation that we're talking about. It's actually those two will happen well before if they go according to plan and will be built pretty much before you probably see any major building happening on the larger expansion site, if that even happens out there. Next slide, please. So we're going to pivot it back to you, Mayor, where we talk about how all of that kind of flows into what we do looking in the future with building the strengths and the resiliency we talk about.
Okay, thank you. So we can go on to the next slide. So one of the things that we want to talk about is the work that's been done to identify our strengths, our limitations, opportunities, and threats. This is part of our strategic work that was done, and we've continued to do tune-ups that you'll continue to see like a tune-up every year. We have some of the boards at the back. Earlier this year, the city council identified which of the items have been accomplished and also which work still needed to continue, and then added new items to each one of these areas of work. And we invite members of the community to also participate if you were not able to attend that workshop meeting. Feel free to add sticky notes on any of the areas of work that we've named as part of our goals, so that you can also contribute to some of those ideas. So we're going to go ahead and continue on to some of our strengths. So one of the things that we identified for Suisun City is that we've got some really great things happening for us. Some of our assets include the fact that we have a train station, only one of two in all of Solano County. Why does that matter? Is at first that it got federally designated about 2.5 years ago that creates greater funding sources for new alignments of rail. One of those alignments is going to be going to Roseville, another one is designated to go to Nevada. That matters because it creates greater opportunity for people to leave from Solano County through one of the train stations like Suisun, and for people to come and visit. So that's a big, big deal. The other piece that I wanted to note is our waterfront. That is one of our greatest assets in Suisun City, being able to attract maritime use into the downtown and the attraction of the waterfront area. In addition to that, I already named one of them is the fact that we're a very diverse community. Many of you know that in 2019, we were named the most diverse small city in the Bay Area. That's something that we celebrate. It really enriches the culture that we have and the community building that we continue to do. So those are just a couple of things that are some of our strengths. I wanna go into some of the limitations that were identified in some of the action steps that we've taken since, these are identified. Some of these are still work in progress, so it's important for us to continue to name some of the challenges. As was earlier noted, it is that the ability to generate greater revenue. So you will hear this term a lot in Suisun, in some of our surrounding cities, that we have what is called a structural deficit. And what that means is that the operational costs for the city, the cost to actually run the city, the departments, police, fire, public, all of that, is greater than the revenues that we're making. And there's a lot of reasons for those issues exist. This council inherited a lot of that, but our work is to continue to identify ways to solve for that challenge. But that's what we have. That gap is what's called a structural deficit. Currently, a portion of it is being reduced because of the tax measure that we currently have in place. The other piece that we have is, one of the things we talked about and identified is that we have limited staffing, and that is true at every single department that we have. And so being able to create succession planning, being able to find new ways to be innovative about how we do the work, to be more efficient with the staff that we have has been a priority for the city, as well as looking for ways to address what has been a big concern for members of our community, which is code enforcement. There's one thing to identify that there's an issue on the street, another to actually enforce our codes to be able to resolve for those. And I would say Life has been amazing. He's one of our newest staff member on code enforcement, and he has been out there navigating a lot of that. We also recognize that we still are addressing homelessness. It has reduced significantly since we became council members, I would say. However, homelessness is a social issue that the city can navigate through certain resources in certain ways. So being able to continue to enhance those programs, our new life skills program with Edge Community Church helps transition members into their program for 90 days. And once they qualify to be able to be part of the workforce, it transitions them to work. And they're doing a lot of cleanup in downtown Suisun. The other piece is development, and so you've heard the development that's taking place. So I'm going to move us along to the next slide, please. The opportunities that we have is revitalizing downtown and making those investments happen. We continue to market Suisun City as a place this is the place to be, it's the gem of the bay, and continue to market and bring people in. Last year we had almost 20,000 people visit us for our 4th of July, and we continue to have people come and host their events in downtown Suisun City, coming from all over the area. I don't know if you know this, but we even have youth sports happening now in Suisun that are bringing people from Stockton, Sacramento, and the wider Bay Area. And so that's a big deal to continue to push the city's location on the map, because it brings visitors who also stop by and shop here and eat here and have a good time right here in our community. I'm going to move us along a little bit to some of the threats that we do have is continuing to identify, we've talked about public safety continues to be an issue in the sense that we are investing in our public safety departments. You heard the drones, that's a big one to address some of the public safety needs. We've also invested in a new fire truck that should come to us online Chief, would you say in about 2 years, 5 years, 4 years? We went from 5 to 4 years, because that's how long it takes to build one of these trucks and then to arrive to Suisun. But it's already been approved, and it's something that we are excited to have. And then continue to, as you know, there are other threats to our communities, such as the Bay Delta plan, which is a threat to Lake Berryessa, and Suisun City currently is 100% dependent on the water for Lake Berryessa. So any threat to our access to Lake Berryessa is a real one. And I would say we have been great advocates through the Suisun Solano Water Authority on ensuring that we actually are known by the Department of Water Resource Control Board by name. They know Suisun City because there's been so many of us advocating. So I'm going to go ahead and move us just quickly along other areas that we continue to strengthen Suisun City. One of the things that we had tasked the city staff is to continue to strengthen relationships with other partners, Travis Air Force Base being a key one. So this year, I believe it's the first time in my tenure of being on council, the department heads all went and attended state of the base and got to connect with the executives and learn more from the base side. So they had an opportunity to meet them. I'll have to say Travis Air Force Base was really excited to see our team out there and to build those connections. Moving on, one of the things that we talked about is, how do we become more efficient with the staff that we have? So one of the things we approved was autonomous lawnmowers. Do you see those three? You can.
Technology too.
Well, it's not showing up, but there are we have three autonomous lawnmowers. And so what they do is that each of these lawnmowers is programmed with our parks and our various fields. And so the staff member from Public Works will go to that field or the park, and then the autonomous lawnmower will begin to mow that lawn while they themselves are doing other work, like cutting some of the shrubs or doing some of the other work. So we're able to become more efficient with the staff that we have. So we're not increasing labor costs, but we are increasing our capacity. And we're finding this in different ways through technology, which is one of the things that we have. For example, we've added AI to that chat box. So we had about the highest kind of questions that we were receiving had to do with how do I pay the water bill. And so now we have systems that kind of filter those types of questions, because I don't know if you know, we only have 2 staff members at the water counter. Yet we have 30,000 people in Suisun City, multiple members of households that still pay, they go in to get water connection or try to pay their bill. So that was, the team was really overloaded. This is one of the ways we're becoming more efficient. Another investment that we received this year is from the Yochitihi Winton Nations, once again strengthening those partnerships. They invested over $200,000 into our fire department, specifically for a learning system to our firefighters that help them be more responsive, but also helping take care of their health. And so that's a big investment that we would not have been able to do on our own. We don't have an additional $200,000 like that. So that level of commitment from other organizations has been instrumental. I'm gonna pick it up to you for the next slide.
So, state of business, this was our inaugural push into this conversation. Suisun City, the biggest thing that I will say in my 2+ years here that this council has done is gotten Suisun City to have a seat at the table. I would say that there were moments in our history, and former Mayor Jim Sparing did a good job of that as well, but there were lulls in that time where Suisun was really not at the forefront of these big conversations. And as a small city, it can be easy to be pushed aside at times by the larger whole, and you really have to be very astute in how you get yourself in conversations to most benefit the city. This council has done it, and one of those things is the state of business. We partnered with Fairfield Suisun Chamber to host the state of business. These happen in large cities more frequently, but we felt that we wanted to be a leader to showcase of how you talk about how you bring business into not just the city, but the region. We had a great panel of educators from Torrey University to Cal Poly, to Solano Community College, great business owner from Suisun City, as well as large industry who looks to bring massive employers into communities, as well as a couple council members, the mayor. Councilmember Shepherd were on there with me. It was a great dialogue. We probably had 100 people there for this lunch discussion. And we really got to showcase our mindset of how we want to be innovative to bring business into the community. And it's the first of what will be an annual event now that we're going to host to try to be in the forefront of doing that for the region. The next slide is around our beautification committee. Great group of community individuals. This was a council policy level committee. Through discussions, we realized that this really is more of an action-oriented committee. And so we transitioned it down to my office. And it really immediately showed how when they are less, we'll call it rule-bound, and how you deal with the Brown Act and communication under policy level stuff, and can be action-oriented. And you go to the next slides through all the way to the mural. This team immediately got into action. We were able to use public art funds to put a community mural. As you kind of drive through the city, you can see it. And this was a big step because we partnered with the schools. And this was really an ownership of the children that live in this community and the community together. And it's a symbolism of what can happen when you really focus that energy in a positive way together. We don't always agree on issues, but the one we can agree is we want Suisun to be better. And I think this is an example of that. That group continues to work today. They are looking at quarterly initiatives to really push themselves. And we're excited to see more of the ideas that comes from this group, which is beyond just cleanups, so you know. It's the things like the public art. It's looking at ways to enhance the ability to showcase people that have great yards in our community to get people to get energized to do their own yard. It's finding, with working through my office funding to help people maybe with drought resistant front yards to help pay for those things. And this group, they're very active, and I really applaud the efforts that they do. And Michael Owen leads it in my office with them. They really put a lot of effort forward. As we go through an area very dear to my heart, which is artificial intelligence, it is, still in the first inning of the world in using it. But as you heard the mayor mention, we've also already moved to autonomous lawnmowers, which was a big step. But even before that, polymorphic is an AI overlay that you see when you call. It gives you the generative answers that you need so staff don't get impacted. Along with REPT, which does an AI component to answer just general questions that you bring into the city. We are also now looking at those initiatives for things like building code and public works when it comes to asset management and work there, along with areas even in finance that it can start to help us moving forward. And so AI will be at the forefront of what we do. I think it's important to note, though, that AI, the city is not looking at AI as a head reduction tool. What I mean by that is, if we have, I'm making some round out, we'll call it 80 staff now, the goal is not the AI to get us to 70, because that's not the most effective way, in my opinion, in discussion with industry leaders to use it. What it is, though, is a headcount restrictor moving forward. So what I mean by that is we had 80 today, and as we grow, we needed to get to 110 of a certain total position count. Maybe we only jumped to 90 because AI was able to stop 20 hires. And that is really the benefit, and when it becomes a force multiplier is when AI is doing that. And so we're trying to set the foundation in the next few years so we can have that benefit as we grow, just an infill or expansion, whichever happens, that we have the ability to maximize that efficiency with not having to grow the headcount as much because of this technology. Next slide. And so here, I'll turn it back over to the mayor to talk more about our larger infrastructure needs moving forward.
So one of the, we can go on to the next slide. One of the things that we have been successful in doing is through our partnership with the Solano Transportation Authority is working to get $2 million invested into the pedestrian bridge that connects the city of Suisun City and the city of Fairfield. It's currently not ADA compliant. It's currently not the safest to walk on. And so being able to increase safety and increase connectivity between the cities and then having it ADA compliant is a project that has been underway for about a year, getting the funding and design. And so we're looking forward to seeing the next level of it. Adjacent to this, and I'll just repeat it, we've mentioned in the past, the work is still ongoing. We were able to get $500,000 of a grant with the Solano County, Solano Economic Development Corporation, with partnership with the city of Suisun City and the city of Fairfield as well, in how do we revitalize that area of connection between the city of Suisun City and the city of Fairfield. One of the things both cities have recognized is that our downtown commerce continues to be affected by the fact that there is no real feasibility of connection really easily between commerce back and forth. As some people remember prior to Highway 12 that was completed in 1984. So being able to identify ways to continue uplift has been a priority in the investment. So this is something that is continuously being worked on, and I just want to make sure to, it's a more long-term project, but it'll be an important one as it's right adjacent to that the train station and to that 34-acre parcel that we just legally got cleared to be able to approve. So that's what's called also a priority development area because of its closeness to transportation. The next slide starts talking about something that was kind of briefly mentioned in the video, which is the city went out to an RFP for our waste hauler. Our waste hauler is, who collects our trash. And so the contract that we had in place had been in place for about 50 years. And it was identified we had not gone out to an RFP to see, can we get more competitive bids? Can we reduce the cost to our residents in any way? So the council went in this direction. So it's a process. And this next slide kind of tells you a little bit about where we are in that process. So in February, we released the solid waste RFP out to different applicants. We received quite a few. There were 4 applicants that really kind of got to the next stage, and we will be receiving an update on June 23rd about where we are in regards to the next waste hauler that we can kind of review and see where they measure up in regards to the services that they can provide our residents and the rates that they can provide our residents. looking to be as competitive as we can and see what, comes from that. So I'm pausing here because I want to note it, this is a big one for us because it's a city-wide item. This will affect every single resident. So if there's any changes, every resident will be affected. So it will be really important, I ask you, as we will, and I've already asked the team, like, we need to educate to this and inform people, be present, ask questions, and be in attendance, if possible, or send us your emails to let us know what you're seeing and kind of the feedback that would be helpful for us as we navigate, this next phase of that process. I'm gonna move us along to the concrete dock location. So our marina, once again, is an asset. We have different dock stations that go through a different level of maintenance and rehab and all of those pieces. So these are identified. We want to continue to make sure that we're investing in the regular maintenance every year. In addition to that, we received a $300,000 grant to be able to bring in a fishing pier. And so that is still early stages, but it's definitely something that we're aware that will come one day. But it's something that is, how can we continue to look for investments that will activate the marina in our waterfront? So I just wanted to note that. Dredging is a challenge here. So the dredging cost is around, can be anywhere between 7 to 10 million by the time it's dredging year. So one of the things that, we don't have $7 and $10 million extra to be able to dredge, the marina. So that is a big issue, and it is a big issue for our boating community. So right now, one of the things that we're going through, the Soil Transportation Authority is working with the other cities affected by dredging, such as Benicia and such as Vallejo, and working with Contra Costa, and we've identified an opportunity that we could navigate and see if the Joint Powers Authority would be feasible, that the cities affected by dredging can collectively invest in the equipment needed and can rotate by year whose dredging year it is to do that work. So it's very complex work, and it requires a lot of complex conversations because it means a lot of people coming together to agree to some of those terms. But we're in those initial stages, and that's continues to move forward. And then the next item that I want to quickly note is we've talked about the lighting and landscaping districts, and I'll look to our team here just to make sure if I'm off here in any way. But my understanding is that everything in blue on this slide means that there's a lighting and landscaping district whose properties have an assessment that contribute to the maintenance of our city, and the maintenance of our parks, the maintenance of the trees in those neighborhoods. Everything that's not coded in any color means that these are properties that do not contribute assessments to any maintenance. So you can see we have some of those disparities about the funding mechanisms to maintain parts of the city in this way. Many of those assessments are also being assessed to the rates of the 1990s when they were first created. There's a few that have what we call inflators, which means that the assessment incrementally increases over time. Things that have changed since the 90s is the cost of energy, the cost of some of the chemicals and equipment used, the labor costs, and the water costs. So what you're seeing many communities do is starting to change some of that green turf over to a different type of material that doesn't require so much water. The council has directed some of that in the past. Like if there's a median, we can convert over to reduce the cost of water or things like that. That makes sense because we don't want to just hardscape. It's important for when it rains to have places where water can go. But we want to make sure that we are being consistently looking ahead. So what does this also mean is that there's been conversation with the council to come back in the future to have conversations about, do we need to rethink about a citywide assessment of the way that we do landscaping? It's been mentioned, I'm mentioning it here because we should expect future conversations that would come back to the council to kind of like really grapple with, because that's a big one. If any changes happen to that, it would go as a ballot initiative to our residents. The residents would have to weigh in on those conversations. So we just mention it because it is a challenge for the revenues and the maintenance of our city. However, we have, like you heard, we have a small but mighty team that continues to find ways to figure out how to be efficient with the finances that we do have available to us. I'm going to go ahead and move us along real quick. It was already mentioned by City Manager Pergola, but we have been talking about the Suisun expansion. We have held community forums. We have a website dedicated to this topic. We have sent a postcard with information. Do not confuse that postcard with a different mailer that went out by an entity that is not the city of Suisun City. The information you should be receiving about the Suisun expansion will continue to be educational for you to understand. And we've received some really great feedback. I'm seeing some faces out here. Really great feedback about how to continue to refine the information that we're sharing with the community to remain educational, objective, and for us to understand implications and challenges of development further out or opportunities. So it has to be a very comprehensive conversation. Where we are in that process is the environmental impact report studies. Those studies cover a lot of the questions people have, from air quality, transportation, water, infrastructure, lighting, roads, all of those pieces, maintenance of the area, assessment, all of those pieces are addressed through the environmental impact report as a level of analysis to provide us all an opportunity to better understand the implications of an expansion. The city at this time is going through an exploratory phase. So I mean, we're here to learn, we're here to do our due diligence, and we're here to be, to guide a process. We should expect the environmental impact report later this year. That is the opportunity. We invite the members of the community to provide your comments on record of any concerns you have in that environmental impact report, things that you're saying, like, you don't have a question about this, I'm concerned about that, or, you know, whatever questions you have, that is the public process for you to provide your commentary and input in there. We do have other agencies that I see represented out in the crowd, other agencies that may have some type of nexus with the with a potential expansion are also part of that process and will be providing commentary from their area of expertise. And then I'm going to move us on just to, you know what, I was trying to get us by 7. I'm almost there because I wanted to provide a full hour of conversation with the community. But to just start wrapping up this part of the presentation, it's, you know, it's, we try to be as, we want to be optimistic and hopeful, but we also want to be real. And the reality of Suisun City is that it has some serious financial challenges. The optimism that we keep and the hope that we keep is that we have really great people working in Suisun City, trying to do the best that they can with the resources that we have. And we have a great community that we are in the service of. We continue to invest in public safety, infrastructure, housing, downtown beautification, and we continue to build on those partnerships. We named a few, we have many, but we continue to build on partnerships and continue to invite members of the community to participate in various points throughout the year of your input to how do we continue to shape Suisun City's current needs and also the outlook for the future, right? So I'm going to pause here. My first piece is, one, I wanted to provide as much time as possible for us to have a conversation as a community, but I do want to hand it off first to members of our council if they wish to provide any commentary at this time. The floor is yours. Okay. All right, we're going to go to the community first. So we would like to invite members of the community. If you have a question, we have microphones that will go to you, and you can ask your question. We have
First of all, let me say that it's the first one of these events I've ever come to, and I'm actually quite surprised as a resident who's been here for 20 years or 9 years to see what's going on. So congratulations to the entire team. You mentioned the maintenance areas have districts. Now, that maintenance money, can it be spent, like I live in the downtown area? Does that money go specifically to downtown or be anywhere in the blue spot?
I'm going to have our Public Works Director lead this conversation.
So the blue areas, each of those are their own district.
Okay.
And the revenue that's generated through those districts stays in those districts.
Oh, okay, great, thank you. The other thing I understand the 20 properties that you guys, does that include the empty pads downtown? There's like 4 or 5 empty pads downtown that were part of the redevelopment program that kind of fell apart when the state took all our money.
That's a very good description. That's exactly what happened, yes. 2012, the day will live in infamy. Rick, do you want to take that? I think he's referring to Linex and all of those. You want to just give a sense of where those are at?
Basically the ones around the marina.
Yep.
Yeah, those ones were sold to developers, so they're now privately owned.
Okay.
So it's part of the wave of 20 that you're referring to, that sale already occurred before that.
Do you know if there's anything really going on there, or that they just thought?
Yeah, they currently have an application in, I think it's, yeah, still incomplete, so they still have some items to turn into us before we can begin processing it in earnest.
Okay, I did have AI on there, and you addressed that, thank you. The other thing I heard, for Ms. Dawson, you're dealing with the homeless situation. I heard about all these great programs, which is fine. The only thing I didn't hear about is drugs and drug rehab. Is anything going on in that area?
Yeah, so the cities were not designed to deal with homelessness.
I'm sorry?
I said the cities were never designed to deal with homelessness.
No, I know, sure.
So one of the biggest challenges we have here in Solano County is that we see homeless across all of our cities. And so the way Solano County works is our city itself is too small in size and population to be able to draw down federal and state funds that deal with homelessness directly. Like Fairfield, Vallejo, they typically have funding that they're getting from shelters. They have like homeless outreach teams. We have our police officers who do a lot to the best of their ability, but they're not trained, they're not social workers, they're not mental health, they don't deal with substance abuse, right? So trying to mitigate a lot of those issues is definitely a challenge. Solano County, we are currently all part of Solano, a JPA, where it's 7 cities. And so we have two representatives, myself and Mayor Hernandez sits on that. We actually had a meeting tonight, but unfortunately we're not there. We're here with the state of the city. So all of the money, through the federal government, from HUD, there's, all these different acronyms. We have HAP funding, CASH money, all this different funding that comes to the county, and then it gets filtered out, and the money is used to pay service providers like Abode. We have Canby, which is located next to Solano County Jail. All of these different service providers, and they do street outreach. There's housing first programs, there's rehabilitation programs, so they all go through that coordinated entry. So the way our city works is if an individual is facing these challenges, or if they have substance or dual diagnosis with mental health issues, their first point of contact would be to go through coordinated entry. And then from there, they go through assessments, and then the agencies all come together and wrap their own services with them. They can either go into substance recovery, mental health treatment, or temporary or transitional housing from that point. So that is one of the challenges we have here, is when we have cities like Vallejo and Fairfield who have a lot more homeless, a lot of the funding is going there. We don't have a shelter here. Majority, we have the shelter in Solano, we have a few in Vallejo, and a few in Vacaville. So that is also one of the challenges. Also, we see here, one of the challenges we have is when individuals are getting arrested in Vallejo or Vacaville, they're coming to our county jail, and from there they're released. They come over the overpass, they go into Fairfield, they go into Suisun. So we're constantly struggling with that battle of, okay, how can we get them back to their cities and in treatment?
Sure.
So it is an ongoing problem across all of our regions. One thing I do want to mention, when we came in, every 2 years we do a pit count at the point in time. We go out 5 a.m. in the morning, we actually go out to where our homeless individuals are, and we do a count and identify how many individuals are actually here. From the first time that I served on council, I did the pit count, I believe that was in 2022. 2023, January 2023, we had 75 individuals that were deemed homeless and in insecure housing here in our community. This last pit count, we were just above under 40. So we did have a significant reduction in homelessness across our community. But it is a collaborative effort, and I think that's one of the biggest challenges, is because we're not getting direct funding like some of the other cities are. We're using the limited resources we can to try to solve the homeless crisis. But at the end of the day, we really are dependent on our county as well. They are the safety net programs, right? They have health and social services, they have the mental health clinics, things like that we don't do those services. So it's definitely a collaborative effort. A lot more needs to be done, but it's a struggle that all of us face here every day when we see the homeless individuals out here and we know that there's limited resources. Does that answer your question?
It does. At least it's on the board, which I appreciate.
Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you very much. One comment, go ahead.
Okay, this is not a criticism, it's a question to understand reasoning and thought process. You admitted that there's a structural deficit, and yet, in the presentation, it seemed like 3 or 4 departments were adding staff. So how do you balance the structural deficit and then going ahead and adding staff that only exacerbates this deficit? So what's the thought process there? I'm not trying to criticize and hire anybody. I'm sure they're all needed, the police need people, the fire department need people. It's just, what's the thought process that makes hiring people?
Yeah, that's a very good question, and I think it's a valid one to ask. So there are 2 ways that you can really manage a community that's in the stage that like Suisun City is. And I think it's important to know, and the mayor mentioned it, she is not over-exaggerating when she says every city in the county, in Solano County, is in a structural deficit. The combined structural deficit and operating budget only is roughly $100 million between the 7 cities in the county. What does that tell us broadly? And then I'll answer your question. We have a regional economic problem that causes that. I can tell you it's not 7 cities in the county running away with expenditures. It's really the revenues are so far depressed in this region that is what we all have to come together to solve. So to your point, yes, we have strategically, as of 2 years ago when we talked about the resiliency plan, part of what the council and I are moving forward with is essentially fixing the plane while it's in the air. Which what I mean by that is sometimes we're going to leak some oil, and that's some deficit spending, but it's bridging to something. And I think that's what's important. Where I have seen, and I was born and raised in Vallejo, where I have seen cities fall into a trap is when you're bridging into a future that is not yet existent of what you might get to. And what I mean by that is, if your deficit spending is just a deficit spending to buy time and hope something happens at the end, you're going to run out of money, i.e. Vallejo, Stockton, before that happens. We have been intentional in saying we are going to strategically know if we add cops, we improve the crime rate, we improve the easy ability for developers to want to come in. I have to be able to process development applications very fast, so I need to make sure the staff's there. Part of the backbone that you heard in finance and HR and IT is if I don't have the right staffs there, the support structure and the technology used by the departments isn't done. So we have very strategically added, mostly in public works, fire, and police. That is really where the core of the net adds have been around the deficit spending, but we have added strategically in other smaller elements throughout the city. But it's to enhance this bridge. And what we think of, and you'll hear this in June in my conversation with council, is we're going to bridge a certain deficit spending conversation this June in the budget coming up for July 26th through June 27th. We'll probably have to bridge it one more time to 27, 28. And then in between those 2 years, major decisions are going to happen that then tell us 2 things. One, we'll have sold the 34-acre site in that time, and we'll have gotten significant money from that to figure out how we move and pivot with that. We'll have seen significant development start to go vertical downtown in the infill projects I mentioned, so we'll know, is our timing still allowing us to bridge, or do we have to make other changes because it's too slow relative to that bridging? And the council will have made a decision on the exploration of expansion beyond the Buzz Oaks projects I talked about and into the California Forever discussion. And that has very different economic trajectory versus if all that doesn't happen. If it doesn't happen, after that 27-28 budget, we will cut significantly. We will cut exponentially greater than the ads that we have done. So what we've decided is we want to go out fighting in the sense that we want to provide that upper level going for better service because we hope that we're essentially going to grow into it, like you would see in Disney or Costco or companies throughout the year. But we know that doesn't have an extended lifespan, and that really we're giving it through, it was a 5-year plan that started roughly 2.5 years ago. So we're giving it through 27, 28 for the most part, budget year, to know, but we'll know in that budget year if we have to start making structurally negative changes, or if we can now hold and it will be enhanced and bridged by the development and the development agreements and all the things that will let us go to a different future. So that we're in a very critical point. You could cut to balance the budget. I will tell you that will be so significant to public service that you're almost losing before you win. You start to lose talent when that happens, and then trying to do everything we're doing becomes almost unmanageable. What I mean by that is an RFP for solid waste service an RFP to look at the landscape and lighting districts, which we're doing, which is a 1.5-year long process. The 2 expansions on Buzz Oaks projects, plus the larger California expansion, plus 14 infill projects, is about 10 years of work. We're trying to do it in 5, because we have to. I will put an exclamation mark on that over, we have to do it in 5 years. Because I don't have 10 years to work the council through to save the kind of money to do it. So we are, to accelerate that pace, you need a certain amount of bodies to do it, and that's really the minimum we've hit to. Does that answer your question enough? Or?
Believe it or not, that does make sense.
I do want to just add a little context too. We also have some of the hidden costs that people don't see when we don't have the staffing that we've been investing in. I'll take us back to 2023, for those of you who remember, we lost 7 officers that year because the city of Suisun City was just not competitive on salary. And that was the reality of the city at the time. We could not retain the talent. And we had what people call the revolving door. I would say this council took that head on. We did not want to be known as that. We wanted to invest in our departments, and we wanted people to grow their careers here. The same thing with our fire department. We only have what we call a 1 engine. What that means is that when at any time you call, we have enough staffing for 1 engine really to get out there. We wanted to increase to 2 engines, and so that's additional staffing for the 3 shifts, A, B, and C shifts. So investing strategically on what the community said were their priorities. Public safety, health #1, it continues to be a priority. The other piece we kept hearing was, it needs to be cleaner in Suisun. We're seeing this illegal dumping in Suisun. We're seeing all these things. Public works became another initiative for us to start staffing properly or investing the equipment necessary for them to do their work. So what we found is a couple of things. We needed to recognize that the turnover cost of losing talent was really high. The recruitment cost, the HR cost, like all of that was really high.
Sure.
The second piece was that the community members were feeling the pain of us not being able to staff appropriately. And we have, thanks to the credit of our department heads, last year we had a 4-hour budget study session. They went deep into helping the community at large. It's still a really great relevant document. Us understand this is our service level today. This is where we need to be. And we're trying to grow here right now. Like we're trying to incrementally get there. We know we're not at A+. That's gold star right here that we're trying to, that's our goal, that long-term goal. But it gave us an understanding as policymakers where we needed to be making those strategic investments as well. And the only other thing that I want to add is we also have some positions that are limited term positions. So we also understood that we also needed to be strategic in knowing that if we didn't have long-term sustainable funding, we also couldn't provide jobs for long-term. So when those positions were approved, they were approved for 2 years to give us enough on-ramp to see where we could go, and then we would be doing another analysis at that time to see if we could keep those positions or not.
Well, I'm pretty encouraged, so thank you.
I would say Mr. Russo's had his hand up for some time as well.
Sorry about that.
No, this is what community conversations are about.
They were excellent questions, thank you.
I'll try to make this as quick as possible, because I know everybody's been waiting here on their own time for these type of things. Also, I really appreciate if you cut your answers a little bit, we'll make them a little bit more succinct, okay? Because people, like I said, have been waiting here a while. Anyway, number 1, you've talked a lot about the RFPs, and it's wonderful to send out RFPs and stuff like that, but I noticed when you sold off city property to our friends, our billionaire friends, there was no RFP. I just want to make that as an observation. Number 2, while other cities have dealt with these issues, there are issues specifically dealing with our city. And the one thing I do agree is this city has a lot of potential, and it's basically being wasted. Okay, that's number 1. Number 2 is that, you're talking about a huge amount of a deficit, $4 million. You're not going to spend your way out of that type of debt. This is a structural deficit. We need some kind of intensive order in the city and see to make the city more efficient. That's number 2. Number 3, maybe if public safety consumes that much of the budget, we may have to look at farming it out to the county. That's certainly a proposal, and that's certainly what other cities have done. The bottom line here is you can't spend your way out of this situation. You're selling properties that you're only getting 10% for. That's a one-time thing, and there's no funding for the future. And it's all these things you're talking about are wonderful pie-in-the-sky things, but they don't deal with what we're dealing with right now. And they don't make up a $4 million deficit. There's almost 11% of your budget. That's it. I'm sure there's other people that want to talk.
I have a couple of things around us chiefly can weigh in around the public safety and going to a county model instead. I will note, we don't get disclosed to us the exact numbers. We just get a general overview of our greatest revenue makers in the city. The top two revenue makers of Suisun City are Walmart and Stizzy, that's cannabis. So if you're thinking we're gonna depend on Walmart, who just had a fire that was not catastrophic, to continue to close them for months and months. But when I saw that fire, I knew immediately that was one of our greatest revenue makers in the city, and we depend on those revenues. But cannabis, right? And those are from there on, then we have the various services. We have a lot of gas stations, we have a lot of fast food restaurants. What we don't have is major industry that really drives other types of revenue. So diversifying the revenue models is part of our strategy, and that is why the work with Director Capleton about how we're working with developers in the downtown and incentivizing that 34 acres of the last contiguous piece of land available for Suisun City to develop is how do we have something there that cohesively in the downtown helps uplift and diversifies the revenue model. I want to turn it over to Chief to talk a little bit about what it would mean to go out to county.
Well, what I can say is we actually did look at that a couple of years ago, and I think one of the things that we found is we are probably one of the lower paid organizations as far as the police department in the county. So right there, you're going to have more personnel costs. Some of the issues that we have as far as the staffing levels that we have in comparison, we brought up Anisha earlier, 28,000 people, 33 officers over there. We have 29 to 30,000 people in our community, and we have 29 officers. So how you would staff that and how other organizations would allow their officers or deputies to be staffed in the community, whether they would allow them to dip down to what our levels are or not. Some of the other things that people don't really think about either is if you go to another model as a contract, you don't have control over personnel costs, you don't have control over bargaining unit costs, you don't have control over a lot of the insurance costs and the other things that are occurring. So I think that when that was looked at a few years ago in totality, it was just not going to be something that was going to be feasible for our city to maintain the budget levels that we are and the service levels that we are.
And Chief Lopez, I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about, although we've increased capacity and staffing for our fire department, the model we have is a bit of a hybrid because we contract out some of those positions. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Testing. Thank you. Yeah, so the fire department, as you heard, we currently staff 2 engine companies. So essentially we have 4 firefighters on shift each day, 24 hours a day. On the engine companies, there's 2 firefighters assigned to each engine. That's not an ideal or industry staffing model. So what that should look like today is having 4 firefighters assigned to each engine company. So we're about kind of 50% of a staffing model in an ideal kind of gold standard world. The other thing with that is part of a reorganization we did in our department to help improve staffing needs is we ended up contracting with the City of Fairfield Fire Department to provide battalion chief coverage for our city. And so a battalion chief's role is really to come in and manage incidents that are of large scale, complex, or very dynamic moving incidents. To help with incident command functions, firefighter safety, obviously community safety. We've been in that contract arrangement with Fairfield for about almost 2 years now. It's been very fruitful for us and really at a cost savings. Our contract for service with Fairfield is roughly about $150,000 a year. In order for us to employ a battalion chief model for our department, that'd be adding 3 battalion chief positions to our department at a cost of about $650,000 a year. So these are efficiencies we've looked at in partnerships regionally to see how we can maximize maintaining service level, provide for safety for our community and our employees, and still maintain an acceptable and adequate service level in our community.
Any other questions?
Hi there, my name is Nikita Isaac. I've been living in Suisun for about 15 years now, and I recently retired, and so I see a lot of things that kind of are a little bit disturbing, but things that I've just noticed over years. Thank you all for being here. I appreciate your time. I stay on Pintail, and the traffic on Pintail, the cars move really fast on Pintail. I see police cars patrolling, but it doesn't seem like they're doing any stop it or traffic stops to curb the reckless driving on Pintail. There's a school there, there's a library there, there's a fire station there, there's a crop center that's there. And I think that maybe if police was used to enforce traffic stops, there might be some money there, as well as just make the neighborhood safer for community residents, especially the children who are going to school on that street. So that's number one. I do see police patrolling, but it just seems like they're just patrolling. It's not efficient or sufficient, as far as I can tell. And I think there might be a jackpot there. You know, if people actually sat there and made stops, you could make a lot of money with just one day. That's the you know. So there's just a lot of noise on that street. I think it could be cut down if police would actually make traffic stops. I was really disturbed by what happened at Fairfield High with the police who was hitting the young man in the head. From what I could tell, it was excessive force. I'm not sure why the community has not come out in huge numbers to protest this. So I'm just wondering what happened with that young lady who was hitting the young man in the head. My son just came home. He rides his bike to work, and I'm very concerned for his safety in this small community. He came home today to say that that same officer just removed somebody from their car excessively. I don't know how true that is, but step one, what's being done in that instance? And hopefully we're not allowing that to become a model against our community and saying that it's okay for these things to happen. And just one last thing, when I was younger, we used to call them skywriters. But I see like these airplanes going over my area every day that have trails that are coming from the planes. And it's like quite often, like almost a daily thing. And I'm just wondering what those are. If it's something that I should be concerned about, and what kind of money is being put into those daily, the daily traveling of those planes. I don't know what it is exactly, so just concerned about it.
So, Mayor, so one thing I'll tell you, unfortunately, there are city boundaries that did occur in the city of Fairfield. But with that being said, the child that happened to, and I never said this on Facebook, it's not a Facebook moment. That is my godbrother's nephew. I grew up with his parents. I know that wasn't born. And what I will tell you is, it is very sad what happened. It is devastating. And this is something that we have been grappling with, not only as a people, I'll just say first as a people, but as a nation, and as a systematic injustice for a very long time. And it was very hurtful to see someone I know that happened to, and seeing my colleagues next door on the dais when that occurred. It is deep and it is real. And one thing I will say, and I remember when George Floyd happened, this is why I even got involved. What I am very proud about my officers and my police chief and the people here, they are good people. And I tell you, and I'm shaking right now, I am grateful for our force here. Because I know, and I'll say this lightly, because no one knows the future, but that would have happened here. And I look at my chief and I know he would have handled that the way it should have been. I think our city would have handled it the way we can at our best. But there are certain things that we are all powerless about. But to your point, people have been stepping up. People have been rounding as we should. And in a productive way, because when we burn things down, nothing gets built. But if we stand solid together against division, against violence, against oppression, that is how we build better together. And it is very sad. And I'll let Chief answer everything else. But what I gotta say is certain things are just so heavy and deep, but we gotta start somewhere. And I will let you know that Chief Dan Marshall is excellent. He is salt of the earth as a person. He is holding a forum with the NAACP coming up. I urge you to go. Urge you to seek out and never stop being vigilant. And I think one of the things I love about this police force is they have coffee with the cop. They have these events because I have said to chiefs, I don't like that children are afraid of officers because of what they see on TV. That is sad. And one thing I'll say is this city has done a very good job of dismantling that. But it doesn't stop there. So the work continues, the marathon continues. But we have to do it together and not be afraid to talk about it. So thank you for what you said. Thank you.
And when I said that, I neglected to remember that Suisun and Deerfield are different cities, and we are neighbors, so I just expected an outcry. Something said, so thank you for making that.
Certainly, we share a lot of the same students. So yes, absolutely. Thank you, Councilmember Washington, for those comments. I know my staff appreciate the support that you give them all the time, as well as the rest of the council, and frankly, the community. We have a really supportive community. So we appreciate that. To answer your first question about the patrolling and what the officers are doing, I will tell you, it probably looks like they're patrolling, but probably what they're doing oftentimes is going from call to call to call. We have a lot of our shifts, 2 officers and a supervisor that are working, so we are definitely at a deficit there. So the officers are constantly going from one call to another. I know the council has made investments in our staff. We've talked about how many authorized sworn we have for our community. We have 29 authorized. Currently, right now, and probably for the last at least 6 months, we're running at a 3% vacancy. So I have 3 positions that aren't filled, and I have 3 officers that are injured. 2 of them have sustained broken bones in the course of work, and 1 of them is on maternity. So we're operating at about a 20% deficit of what is at least another 10% deficit on top of that based on our staffing level. So a lot of our shifts are running very thin. You take into account an officer having to write a report or book somebody in county jail or go to the hospital or something like that. So you will see the officers driving back and forth, and a lot of times they are going from one call to another, or we're handling some other some of the things. With that, though, one of the things we've done over the last year and a half is we've partnered with a lot of the other county agencies on a regional traffic team. What we did there was to primarily investigate serious collisions, but what kind of spawned out of that was a team of individuals who will come together once a month and go to the different cities that participate. I think there's 4 of us, and we do saturation patrols, and so they will come out, 6 to 8 officers will come out and do traffic enforcement in areas where it is, where we perceive problems, and Dale is one of them. And then we also have officers in their downtime that will come out and they will write traffic tickets, and sometimes they'll write several. So it is happening, and all I can say is that we're striving to do better. We don't have a dedicated traffic unit, but we recognize not so much for the revenue piece of it, but just for the safety and the education piece of it, because we honestly don't get very much revenue when we write a ticket. If there's a couple $100 ticket there, and I forget what the numbers are. Is that what it is?
$13.
So it's not much. It doesn't pay for, it barely pays for the gas, to be truthful. But really, it is about community safety, and to your point, the schools and so forth. So officers are very cognizant of that. A lot of times when you see them park somewhere and you think, oh, they should be out doing traffic citations or something, they're probably writing a police report. At least I hope, because they are pretty busy out there. But I appreciate that, and we are working to fill those positions. And as we fill those positions, we're hopefully going to get to a point where that the impact is going to be pretty great as far as the speeding, the stop signs, the trash, and all the other things that we're wishing we could do better response rate. Thank you.
I do want to invite our public works director to also talk a little bit about the calming measures for the Pintail Street. I know we've added it right now for the fire station, but I know that we've Donna Blanc is here, but she's called for action here at Center Route, Get Park. So can you talk a little bit about future plans?
Yeah, so the past 2 to 2 years, we've installed high visible
flashing beacons to help the pedestrian cross safely. And those are, when they press the button, it flashes, and it's very useful for the drivers to see that who's crossing. And so we're making those measures through grants that we're able to obtain.
And then, one thing, I want to leave you with a fun fact on this, because I think the ticket revenue was a great question, and you heard how little we get. I want you to also understand the same applies to property tax in most cities. So, for example, the left side of your property tax bill is the 1%, so if you have a $500,000 house, that 1% is $5,000. Suisun City, depending on the tax rate area you're in Suisun, you get 11 to 13 cents on the dollar. Right? And so, trust me, I've been in cities as finance director where it's been worse. That's generally the average I just told you, and that's because when you incorporate, you have to do that revenue sharing agreement with the county. County gets about 44 cents on the dollar. The remaining gets split between the school district and the state of California. And so I know many people are like, I pay a ton of taxes, and you do in the state of California. Unfortunately, property tax is actually not structured to come into the city as well. And so it's really, on average, 12 cents on a dollar, as you can assume. And so $5,000 bill gets me $600. And so that's part of the struggle that we're all fighting as cities. That's Prop 13 driven partially, and partially the revenue tax sharing agreement. So it's just a fun fact to keep in mind when we talk about the future and why we have to go somewhat bigger to make up for the fact that the percentages are just not in cities' favor broadly and state financing.
In Suisun City, people love living here, so there's actually a lower turnover rate for our housing inventory. We do have, especially in the downtown area, a lot of homes that still pay pre-Prop 13 taxes on their property. So great for them. However, it limits the financing into the community and some of the upkeep that we continue to be challenged by. Looking for other hands.
Mayor, can I address the aviation question real quick? So the exhaust is what you're seeing at roughly about 33,000 feet. You'll see airliners typically and cargo jets have that exhaust. So by and large, it's nothing but aviation jet exhaust. The weather modification spraying, that would not happen at that level. It does happen, you can look into it, but it's not the jurisdiction of the city. Anything over 18,000 feet is going to be the jurisdiction of FAA exclusively. Anything under in this area, we Travis Air Force Base under Travis approach. But again, the city doesn't really have that jurisdiction of its airspace really, so.
And yes, Michael in my office is also a pilot, if you're wondering why this guy.
Sorry,
Eric.
sorry, yeah. There you go.
Can you address, is it on, can you hear me? All right. Can you address the reason that you can't take us over, folks? Put a radar gun in our hand with a camera attached to it, stand on pintail, and just look at traffic? Well, volunteer. How many guys here that are old dudes? How many of you would stand out there with a radar gun? Alright, so it's something to think about. That's all I'm doing. I'm throwing a suggestion out there.
Thank you.
So first of all, I have honestly answered to this already. But realistically, it's a training issue. You have to be a police officer, you have to be authorized to write tickets, you have to be trained by the state to do that, and it's also a liability issue. And I always say that because we get asked a lot, why can't our volunteers do more and go out there and write code enforcement tickets or do other things? And it truly is rooted in two things. It's liability and it's training. And that's probably not something you really see most cities that are set up to do just because of the big piece of liability. We don't want you to get injured writing somebody who's frustrated that you gave them a ticket.
All right, I'm not talking about writing tickets. We're in the age of magic. All right, I'm no good. You can put a camera on a radar gun. You can record, and we can basically do the same thing that they do in a freeway. We can record it, turn it back into the police department. They can be reviewed, and they say, okay, that guy's doing 60 and a 25. Send a ticket to that tag. They're good.
Chief.
The quick answer to that is if I had the staff at the PD to be able to review that, I would have them out on the street writing those tickets in real time, making sure that our community is safe in the moment rather than after the fact. But thank you.
Okay. Okay, I don't have a question, but I want to answer your concern about the speeders on detail. Suisun Elementary has undergone the new crosswalk things in front of the fire department. Look at that, Siri is trying to answer me. Be quiet. Okay, that's true. Okay, anyway, the fire department now has a new crosswalk and blinkers to alert people in cars and children not to run out there to go when the light blinks for them. We are now going to get one at Crane and Pintail, which is right across from the park by Dana Root, as you go down Pintail. Yes, I know there's a stop sign this side of the street, but from that stop sign on Harrier, the next one is down, I believe, on either Woodlark or Emperor. So people just stop. And we have a new baseball field there, we have a new playground there, basketball court. A lot of kids are there. So for 4 years, I've asked for that. And we are finally on schedule to get that at that crosswalk. And I thank you.
Yes, thank you, and thank you for championing that. And this is how, the feedback is going to our staff until they're here, so that they can take back ideas and see what other areas we can continue to improve. Other questions from anyone? No? Okay.
What happened to the bumps on Main Street?
That's a really great question.
It absolutely is. I asked the same question.
Did you remove them? That's my question back.
Great question. So the buttons that were put there to help encourage people to slow down, those pops out easily. So we are going to explore using strips that will hopefully do the same thing in the near future.
Maybe you can put those on bid then.
That's a possibility.
So part of the, anyway, you want to talk a little bit about traffic calming and public safety and how there's a tie, like, many people are like, just put speed bumps everywhere, right, in these streets. There's a public safety component to response of why you don't see that everywhere too. But you want to talk, Brad, you or Chief, about any of that and how that's assessed as you look at what calming measure is?
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously a lot that goes behind traffic calming devices, but when taking those things into consideration, it's also important to look at the consideration for emergency response and emergency vehicles, because it may have an impact on responding to emergencies.
I'm also wondering if members of our departments who feel like, is there something that you'd like to highlight from some of the programs happening, youth programs, senior programs, not to look this way, but if there's anything you wish to highlight that you think would be or new initiatives. I know that the new playbook just came out about various programs, and maybe we should speak.
Our new playbook just came out with all of our recreation programs that are going on this summer. It includes all of our special events for this summer, our concert series, movies in the park. So go ahead and check it out on your way out of the building. We do have some paper copies. If not, you can QR code. You got postcards in the mail, so you probably all have them at your house anyways, but that way you can see what's going on within the rec department. We have, while you're here, you can see the Heritage Park basketball court and picnic pavilion are almost complete. We're hoping to have it done by the end of June, if not mid-July at the latest, in addition to a couple other park projects going on that we're hoping to improve each park as we can.
And we just completed a master park management plan a year and a half, 2 years ago, and a lot of these improvements came from that work as well. And a lot of that came from feedback from the community. There was a lot of surveys at the time of what would you like to see, what would you like to see. And so shaded areas like the pavilion is definitely one that got a lot of attention. Any other questions or any other department, head who would like to, go ahead.
Mayor, if I may, I'd like to take the opportunity to highlight, the Suisun City Fire Department. We're gonna be hosting a community annual report event, actually here in the same venue on June 18th. So I'll leave some flyers out to pass around. This will be an opportunity for us to engage with you, the community, to learn more about your fire department. I'll have my admin team here. We're gonna have our engine companies here. We'll showcase some equipment, but we'll really talk about, dive deep into the services we provide, calls we respond to, kind of the impacts of that, and just how we operate and engage with our community. So I'll be passing these around, or feel free to come grab them again, June 18th.
Thank you. Before I go to start closing remarks with our city council members, to provide time for you all to be able to speak with some of our department heads, but also participate in some of that feedback request back there around various strategic goals that we have. If you have ideas that the staff can then bring back to members of council as we continue to work through those, that's really great. We have snacks and water. I am going to ask if you are a commissioner in the city of Suisun City, can you stand up real quick? We have our Parks and Rec Commission, we have Measure S committee member, and we had a planning commissioner here a little earlier. Thank you so much for your service to our community. And if you're here, maybe we can have questions for other agencies. I want to point out we have from our Housing Authority is here, Development, Public Works, our Chiefs, Parks and Rec, IT, Finance. We also have members of the public that are helping us because they're really great partners to the city. We have Republic Services, if you can raise your hand here, this is the Republic Services team. We have the Federal Suisun Steward District General Manager here as well. And then I also want to point out from Greenbelt Alliance, Nate, who's been working with our we do a lot of work regarding sea level rise. He's been a great champion for Suisun City. So, and we have Pastor Mike from Edge Community Church, who's leading a lot of the homeless initiatives. So feel free to mingle, but before we do, I'm just going to ask members of council if you have any closing remarks that you wish to provide. This would be, no, go ahead, whoever wants to.
I'll go ahead and go. I just want to thank everyone for coming out today. I think it's so important for our community members to be able to have a space and speak up, even if it's giving a phone call to one of us. We're all very accessible. I'm an advocate at heart, so when you call and you tell me you've got an issue, I'm like city manager, department head, something, right? I'm a social worker, so that's what I do. I advocate for the people. But it's so important that our community speaks up, that our community feels that they have somebody to reach out to, that if you have an issue, don't be silent. It takes a community to make a strong community. So please continue to talk to your neighbors. If you're seeing issues, we have amazing tools. We have an amazing app that you can, if you see a pothole, take a picture. It has GIS, it will track it, right? If you have a complaint, file the complaint. Hold us accountable. That is what we're asking from you, and we want you to speak up, and we want you to share, the challenges that you face. We want you to share, positive things as well that you're seeing across the city, or how we can improve. So I thank you all for the time and space for being here this evening, and I hope that you guys all continue to come, be engaged, show up to a council meeting, call in, pay attention to what's going on, because we're here to serve for you. So thank you.
Thank you.
I don't say much, but I think I ought to say something. I'm right now working on a process or ordinance for e-bikes. Just makes me cringe to see children 8 years of age through 12 on those bikes crossing the streets. They're not cars. And so that's a liability for the city. So I'm looking to the city managers and the city attorney to be a participant in that process. So hopefully we'll get more information out for you, but right now they're taking the lead on it, and hopefully I can open up a little bit more about what we're going to do for more ordinance around that. Thank you.
we actually hear directly, especially hearing that we have someone who's been here for 20 years and never come to, you know, government.
It's 40 years, actually.
40. 40 years. Yeah, and what's it, so I actually been here for 33 years. My dad bought the house brand new across the street. You know, that's why I'm sitting here, because I love this city. I've seen it throughout its best times and its worst times, and one thing I'll say is the city will always be here. No matter what we tell you here, it will always thrive because of the people here, the community, and the work that's being put into it. I do believe that a lot of what is occurring here is not just Suisun City, it's really a national, state-wide issue. A lot of it is inflation, job loss, the demand for housing that handcuffs us from being able to change some zoning or approve a project. I mean, I think government as a whole has it incorrect. The government is top down. The federal and state gets all the money, we get the least amount of money. I would love to see us lobby to change that. Because until we change that, it's going to continue with our deficits and things. But the peace of mind I have is that this environment is very sacred and special to me. It's where my grandmother lives across the street. I'm raising my daughter here. I would never serve in any other city. I don't want higher office because everybody's crazy. I have no desire for any of that, but I do love Suisun. Whether I'm in elected office or not, I will always be here to do what's best. But one of the best things about being up here is that we have the power to make change in our community directly. Very slow. And our hands are tied a lot more than you guys. And so what I always tell people is, you have more power than us. The more you come to us, the more we're able to do. And that's how government works. It only works if you do. It's interesting that people think because we're up here, we're special, and we have all this power. I think the power lies in the people. I genuinely do. And so what I will say is this room should have been filled. Our council meetings should be filled. Our comments should be a lot longer. Not when there's an issue or you're upset. Day to day, we are up here deciding on your money, your taxes. You pay our wages, our department heads. All of this is because of your hard work that you put into the community. And I think we don't say that enough. And I think if I never return in this space again, please understand that you are why we're here. And that should never be lost. We should never feel powerless or defeated. And hold us accountable because we work on your behalf. We just reflect what you give us. So I am very proud of the city. I'm saddened to see some of the things that are said about us or the occurrences, but I know we will always rise above. And we are resilient. And I'm so proud. I'm proud of the team that we have here. I'm proud of the people. And we're not perfect, but society isn't perfect. But together we can make it close to perfect. So I am still hopeful and optimistic. Despite all the stuff we see in closed session, you guys don't know a thing about. I have so many stories I can't share legally, of course, but it's a lot. And I really think we should have more gratitude to the people we serve. Because had you told me this 4 years ago, what I would go through, I probably wouldn't be here. And I mean that, it's a lot, it's a lot, it's a lot, but we love people and that's why we're all here. And if you want to get involved, please do so. We have commission openings. We have 3 seats coming up, including mine. Run against me if you want to, like, I'm cool about it. Whatever you want to do, but get involved because society works when we all do. So please, stay vigilant and get involved and stay prepared for what's to come. Please. And stay positive. Thank you.
Thank you. And I did introduce, but City Attorney Enright has at the end here so I also want to thank you for being here. So this is our City Attorney, everybody. So make sure you stand here. And John, I did want to say something. Am I seeing that? Am I recognizing what I'm seeing here? All right, go ahead.
Are we on? Okay. I just want to remind everyone, Sunday is Suisun Pride at the waterfront. And what you might not know is the RPMA Commission purchased a straight mobile stage trailer a year and a half ago. It will be debuting at the Pride celebration. Come see our new musical trailer. huge, 24 feet long, lighting, speakers. It's gonna be amazing. Thanks.
Thank you. Love that enthusiasm. Thank you. And I want to also recognize, we do have a member, back here, Kaise, he is, wearing two hats today. He is representing, Assemblymember Wilson, and he's also one of our school board members with the Federal Suisun Unified School District. So, just want to make sure we recognize him. And then we also recognize, we did have a representative from Congressman Garamendi's office here today, to our update, so that's really great. I just want to say thank you so much for being here. I am honored to serve alongside my colleagues. We bring a lot of heart into the work that we do. Every individual of our executive team who help lead our departments, and every single one of you, you are why we are in service to our community. And continue to give us these ideas, continue to give feedback, continue to challenge us. That is what makes us better on behalf of our community and in service to you. So thank you so much for being here. I encourage you to mingle, get to know each other, get to know, you're all neighbors, so like get to know each other here today. I'm gonna adjourn this officially at 7:56 p.m., but the community continues to chat. Thank you.